Every 3 years, you are quietly robbed. You walk into a brightly lit auto parts store, hand over $200 or more, and carry out a heavy, toxic plastic brick. You do this because your car wouldn't start. You do this because the mechanic or the guy behind the counter confidently told you your battery was completely dead. But here is the brutal, expensive truth that the automotive aftermarket desperately wants to keep quiet. That battery you just threw away was not dead. It was suffocating. And the industry knows it. There's a method to wake that dead battery back up, and the tool to do it costs about $15. It fits in the palm of your hand. It can force that battery to last 6, 7, maybe even 10 years. But you aren't supposed to know about it, because a battery that lasts 10 years is a financial disaster for the corporations manufacturing them. Today, we break the 3-year death curse. I'm going to show you exactly how to stop paying this invisible tax. We have all been there. It's 7:30 in the morning. The air outside is crisp, maybe a little too cold. You're already 5 minutes late for work, clutching a lukewarm coffee, your mind racing through the emails you need to answer. You slide into the driver's seat, press the start button or turn the key, fully expecting the reassuring roar of your engine. But instead, you hear it. That sound. Click, 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 click. It sounds like a cheap plastic machine gun firing under your hood. Your dashboard needles quiver erratically. The interior dome light dims down to a sickly yellow glow, flickering weakly like a dying candle in a drafty room. You try to roll down the window and the glass barely moves. And in the deafening silence that follows that clicking, you just sit there. You stare at the steering wheel and start doing the frantic mental math. How much is a tow truck going to cost? Which of your neighbors is awake and has jumper cables? How much is this entire ordeal going to set you back? You dig out the crumpled warranty card from the glove box, scanning the fine print, only to realize the coverage expired exactly 2 months ago. It feels like a sick joke. It feels almost calculated. Because, in a way, it is. Think about the incredible engineering in the rest of your car. Your engine handles thousands of violent, controlled explosions every single minute, operating at extreme temperatures. Your transmission shifts gears flawlessly across hundreds of thousands of miles. Yet, this simple black box, a technology whose fundamental chemistry was literally invented in 1859, somehow magically commits suicide every 36 months. They slap a shiny, reassuring sticker on the pristine black casing that proudly says, maintenance-free. But do you know what maintenance-free actually translates to in modern corporate engineering? It means, you cannot fix this. When it breaks, give us more money. In the old days, batteries had removable caps. You could check the electrolyte levels, top them off with distilled water, test the specific gravity, and actually maintain the unit, but they sealed those caps. They took away your ability to intervene. They locked you out of the chemistry to ensure a steady, predictable cycle of replacement. To beat them at their own game, you have to understand the microscopic chemistry they locked you out of. Inside that heavy plastic box is a murky, highly reactive bath of sulfuric acid and a series of alternating lead plates. When you turn the key, a violent chemical reaction takes place. The acid attacks the lead plates, stripping away electrons and releasing a massive surge of electrical energy to spin your heavy starter motor. But that energy transfer comes at a physical cost. The reaction leaves something behind. It leaves microscopic crystals of a substance called lead sulfate coating the plates. In a theoretically perfect engineering model, this isn't a problem. The moment your engine fires up, your alternator kicks on, takes over the electrical load, and pushes a strong current back into the battery. This reverse flow of electricity dissolves those tiny lead sulfate crystals right back into the acid bath. It's a perfect, infinite loop. But you don't drive in a theoretically perfect world, you drive in reality. And in reality, modern vehicles never actually go to sleep. Picture your car sitting in your dark garage at 3 a.m. It looks completely dead to the world, but beneath the sheet metal, a quiet, invisible symphony of electricity is constantly playing. The security system is armed and listening. The keyless entry antenna is desperately searching the airwaves for a signal from your fob. The telematics module is occasionally pinging a cell tower. Even aftermarket accessories, like the glowing LED on your dash cam, are sipping power. This phenomenon is known as parasitic drain. Your battery is essentially a bucket of energy with 100 tiny holes drilled into the bottom. Bleeding power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And here is where the death curse takes hold. Because the battery never gets that full, deep charge, those tiny lead sulfate crystals don't dissolve. They stay stuck to the plates. And they begin to grow. Zoom in on those lead plates under an electron microscope. A healthy lead plate looks like a dark, highly porous sponge. It has massive surface area, eager to absorb and release energy in the acid bath. But as those left-behind crystals grow, they form a creeping, whitish-gray frost over that sponge. At first, this crystalline frost is soft. It's easily reversible if you catch it in time. But let that battery sit. Let it bake in the sweltering heat of a summer engine bay, enduring constant thermal cycles. That soft frost cures. It hardens. It transforms from a delicate layer into a thick, dense, jagged armor of crystallized lead sulfate. This is known in the industry as irreversible sulfation. These hardened crystals are highly electrically resistive. They act like thick insulation. They literally choke the porous lead, effectively blocking the electrochemical reactions by physically covering the active material. Here's the critical insight that changes everything. The battery isn't actually dead. The raw materials are all still in there. The lead is perfectly intact. The acid is still functional. But they can no longer touch each other because there is a literal wall of hardened crystal standing in the way. The usable surface area is drastically reduced. The battery can't store energy, and it certainly can't deliver the massive jolt required to start an engine. It's not dead. It's trapped. So, what is the standard advice? What do people try to do? You jumpstart the car and take it for a 2-hour drive on the highway, praying the alternator will charge it back up. Or you buy an old-school, heavy trickle charger, hook it up in your garage overnight, and wait, but it fails. You turn the key the next morning and you get the exact same clicking sound. Why doesn't it work? Because an alternator is not a recovery device. It's a maintenance device. It's designed to maintain the electrical system voltage of the vehicle, not perform deep chemical surgery. When the alternator's regulator senses the high internal resistance created by those hardened sulfate crystals, it gets confused. It reads that resistance as a full battery. It thinks its job is done, so it backs off the charging current way too early, leaving the crystals perfectly intact. And your standard heavy-duty garage charger? It's even worse. A conventional charger relies on a lazy, steady, continuous push of voltage. If you try to force more and more brute force power into the battery to break that blockage, you run into dangerous physics. It's like trying to remove a thick layer of concrete from a fragile egg by hitting it with a sledgehammer. You aren't going to break the concrete, you're just going to destroy the egg. When you push too much steady current into a sulfated battery, the battery overheats. The water inside the electrolyte literally boils. This process, called electrolysis, produces highly flammable hydrogen and oxygen gas. In extreme cases, a single spark can cause a violent explosion. You cook the battery to death before you ever even dent the crystals. But there is a solution. There is a way to break the concrete without breaking the egg. It is a scientifically proven technique called high-frequency pulse desulfation, and the mechanism behind it is surprisingly elegant. Instead of blunt electrical force, it relies on the physics of resonance. Think about how an opera singer can shatter a crystal wine glass from across the room. The singer isn't throwing a rock at the glass. They aren't using physical force. They are finding the exact natural resonant frequency of that specific glass, and they are hitting that perfect note until the glass shakes itself apart from the inside out. You can apply that exact same principle to hardened lead sulfate crystals. You don't need a massive, expensive industrial rig that costs thousands of dollars. You need a compact palm-sized smart charger equipped with a dedicated pulse repair microprocessor. You can find them online right now for $15 to $30. It doesn't look like much, just a lightweight plastic box with a blinking digital readout and 2 clamps. But inside that cheap-looking casing is a microprocessor programmed to orchestrate a highly precise microscopic molecular assault. When you hook this device up to your dead battery and press the repair button, it does not send a steady stream of power. Instead, it fires thousands of sharp, microscopic high-voltage electrical spikes into the battery every single second. These carefully calibrated pulses act like thousands of tiny, relentless jackhammers. They hit the jagged edges of the sulfate crystals. They cause the rigid, crystalline structure to vibrate violently on a molecular level. Slowly, methodically, over hours of constant pulsing, the structure begins to crack. The jagged armor fractures, and as it breaks apart, the lead sulfate dissolves safely and quietly back into the sulfuric acid bath. The porous sponge of the lid plate is finally exposed to the acid again. The battery's internal resistance plummets. The chemical wall is torn down. This process is not instant. You can't do it in 5 minutes. You connect the red and black clamps, you press the button, and you walk away. You let the microprocessor do the heavy lifting for a slow, steady 24 to 48 hours. But the results at the end of that cycle are staggering. A battery that could barely hold a surface charge, a battery that just rapidly clicked and died on Monday, can recover 80% or more of its original factory capacity by Wednesday. Its cold cranking amps, the sheer muscle needed to start the car, shoot back up. It regains the ability to spin your heavy starter motor reliably, like it just rolled off the assembly line. Why isn't this printed in huge, bold letters on the side of every battery box? Why doesn't your mechanic tell you to do this? The math is brutal. There are nearly 300 million registered passenger vehicles in the United States alone. If even half of those drivers are blindly replacing a $200 battery every 3 years, that is a $10 billion industry built almost entirely on the premise that you do not know how to dissolve a crystal. If every driver spent $15 once, bought a pulse charger, and ran a maintenance cycle once a year, that 3-year replacement cycle stretches to 6 years, or 8 years. Half of that massive multi-billion-dollar revenue stream vanishes overnight. It's the exact same reason things stay hidden. An educated consumer is an unprofitable consumer. But you don't have to be their profit margin anymore. Here is exactly what you need to do to permanently opt out of this engineered consumption cycle. First, get the tool. Go online and search for a smart battery charger with pulse repair. You do not need the most expensive brand name. The $20 units use the exact same fundamental microprocessors and pulse algorithms as the units that cost 5 times as much. Make sure it explicitly says pulse repair or desulfation mode. Second, become aggressively mindful of parasitic drain and your daily operating habits. Stop bleeding your battery dry before you even put the car in gear. When you get in your car, start the engine and let the alternator fully engage before you crank the air conditioning to max, turn on the heated seats, and fire up the high beam headlights. Let the engine do the heavy lifting. When you arrive at your destination, turn off all of those heavy electrical accessories first, before you kill the engine. Stop sitting in parking lots for 30 minutes listening to the stereo with the engine turned off. If you have a vehicle that sits completely unused for weeks or months at a time, spend $5 on a simple brass battery disconnect switch. Just turn the knob to cut the power completely. Stop the phantom drain before it starts. Finally, treat pulse maintenance the exact same way you treat going to the dentist. You brush your teeth every day to prevent soft plaque from hardening into impenetrable tartar, right? You get regular oil changes to stop sludge from destroying your engine. Treat your battery with the same preventative respect. Every 3 to 4 months, pop your hood, hook up your smart charger, and run a desulfation cycle overnight while you sleep. Let those high-frequency pulses scrub away the microscopic soft frost before it ever gets the chance to bake into hardened armor. It is the ultimate preventative maintenance. Breaking the 3-year death curse isn't about luck. It's not about buying a premium, overpriced battery. It's about understanding the microscopic science happening quietly under your hood, seeing through the maintenance-free illusion, and applying a simple $15 scientific fix. Once you see how the system really works, you're no longer at the mercy of planned obsolescence. The next time the temperature drops, you won't feel that spike of anxiety. You will slide into the driver's seat, press the button, and instead of a rapid click, you will hear the instant, robust roar of an engine fed by a perfectly healthy, fully optimized battery. You take back control, you keep your hard-earned money in your own pocket, and you gain the ultimate peace of mind knowing your vehicle won't leave you stranded when you need it most. This battery secret is just one small piece of a much larger puzzle. The automotive industry is built on dozens of these forced consumption cycles, engineering you into paying for problems that have incredibly simple solutions. If you want to know what else they are quietly charging you for, subscribe to the channel right now. Turn on the bell notification, because the system we are tearing apart in the next video makes the battery industry look like loose change. You don't want to miss it.